I'd like to call this special meeting of the Dalton Select Board to order at Nescus Regional Middle School Auditorium, 6:30 p.m. on October 1st, 2018. All those who are able to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to have special guest Evan Sprout in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we don't have a recording secretary, so I'll do the honors roll call. Mr. Boyle? Here. Mr. Strout?
Here.
Mr. Hollow?
Here.
Mr. Bishop?
Here.
Mr. Bartell's here. Mr. Walto?
Here.
We're all present. We don't have any minutes to approve, which brings us to the public address to the board, and this is a time when the public may address the board on any item listed on the meeting agenda or on any issue or matter of the town. If you intend on addressing the board at this time, we ask that you do the following. Please identify yourself by name, address, or the company institution you represent. The public address to the board segment will last no longer than 30 minutes. Please make your comments concise and try not to repeat statements made by others. Please address your comments to the board chair. Discussion or debate on any issue may not take place at this time. Questions on procedural matters may be answered by the chair or their designee. Please be cordial and respectful of others. If anyone wishes to be recognized when an agenda item is discussed by the board, please make the request at this time. This request may be granted by the board chair. Address comments to the board chair and be concise. Is there anyone in our audience who would like to address the board? Seeing none, we'll go to item number 6, which is the only item on the agenda, and that's the Zoning Board of Appeals petition number 557 with regard to 44 Main Street, Kittredge House, special permit for a change of use from residential to business. And in everyone's packet, there was, this is yours.
I brought it.
Oh, you brought it for me? Okay. Is the application to the zoning board and an explanation of what the CRA wishes to do with the Kittredge House. And there is a public hearing on this on Tuesday, October 2nd, which is tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. in the Callahan Room of the Town Hall. And they are asking that the zoning of the property be changed from residential to business, and I would guess B1.
I think so.
B1.
Mr.
So
Chairman,
go ahead.
I brought the plans if anybody would like to see them.
Well, I'll open it up to comments to anyone who wishes to make a comment on this matter. It's kind of self-explanatory by the looks of things.
Does the CRA own this now, or has this been turned over to CRA, or is it still under the Milltown management? And they're gonna turn it over to,
As far as I know, it's still under the Milltown management. The application was from Carolyn Holland,
yeah, she works for them.
which I believe she is. She is part of the Milltown Capital.
Well, and just a slight correction to what we said about the zone. This is not a request for changing zone. It's a request to the ZBA for a special permit to use it for business offices within the residential zone. That's
So
allowed under our zoning bylaws.
Okay, so it's not changing the zone, the zoning of the property.
Zoning will not be changed. Business use is allowable in this residential district with a special permit from the Board of Appeals.
Okay. Comments? Anyone?
Yeah, just one comment, Jess. I think 6, maybe 8 months ago, this should have came before the board. I know I would have had a multitude of questions, positive questions, and possibly even some advice, as members of the board would have too. Because not only is it a big impact and input into our community, they are a direct abutter to a town property.
Yes.
And I think we would have had a lot of comments, the board members, in the discussion, and there wouldn't be this confusion about what we're doing. I mean, Ken, you said it was zoning change, Ken said it was a special permit. Yeah,
Well, it
it's
could have been the way I was.
disingenuous to say the least.
Yeah, when I was reading, I thought it was a zoning change. It just says the current use, and I guess that's not changing the zone of the property.
To me, it sounds like a good idea to use that building as part of the CRA and to expand their programs. I would say my one concern is the parking, and there's obviously very limited parking, like, for example, for our library. We would not want some event that would make it even more difficult for people to use our library. So I think that is one thing that really has to be looked at, is that there's adequate parking and it doesn't impact the library's limited parking that they now have.
That makes sense. I see where they were gonna put in an additional area, and I don't know, I didn't notice how many additional
No, it
spaces
didn't
was.
seem to be, what I saw, I didn't see exactly. And of course, we really don't know how many people would be there at a given time. We don't know the details of their I mean, the programs haven't been set up, so.
But also the parking, it looks like they're going to have walking access to the back parking lot of the DYC,
Yes.
which they completed. I don't know if they were gonna do the same thing with the town hall parking, which is adjacent to that lot. I didn't see that on the plan.
That makes my point. There's a lot of important issues. I mean, obviously, we're in favor of the CRA, whatever they do. But there's a lot of questions to be answered. That's a good question. I didn't even think of that with myself, Ed. About the parking, the library, the town hall, its impact. And I think from the very onset, the day they had a vision, somebody from the CRA should have came to the Board of Selectmen. Whether it be the director, a member of the Board of Trustees, and said, here's our vision, here's our plan, here's what we're thinking. What do you guys think? I mean, we are the Board of Selectmen. But we were never asked until right now, and now it's too late. I mean, whatever we say here doesn't mean nothing. We vote against it, for it, it's just an opinion. I'm really disturbed about this, the way this has been handled. In fact, informally, last week, I asked the board off the record, you know, what do you guys know about this? I didn't know nothing. Mark said, hey, yeah, I heard you heard something from his wife. Nobody else said nothing. Nobody knew anything about it.
It's true, it did not come before the planning
Yeah.
board, which I'm on.
Yep. I was wrong about that letter. It was to the planning board.
But it was sent only as a copy, just like
Yeah,
the select
yep,
board guy. That was,
yep.
it was not a discussion ever, and we had not seen it.
But apparently it's a done deal now, so.
Well, unless there's,
Well, we could
going to the public hearing and voicing whatever concerns or
Well,
approvals or whatever on
we
an
could,
individual
we could
basis.
say we're concerned about exactly the impact on parking to them. And there, of course, there's also a architectural committee that was set up to make sure that any changes on Main Street would meet the neighboring buildings and the historical impact. So I don't know whether that committee was copied. It was just a new committee that was set up.
Well, what's the board's pleasure then? We send a letter, we only have until tomorrow to send a letter out, which I'm sure that we can get something. But
Our concern, what are our concerns? Concerns are the parking.
Parking.
How about if we consider delaying the hearing tomorrow night until whoever is the authority, whether, is this an architect or a hired hand?
There's a separate committee that was set
Yeah,
up.
but this name here.
Oh, yeah, that would,
She's a paid advisor.
I thought she was.
works for-
No, she works for Milltown Capital.
they're the ones that I think have possession of the building right now.
Somebody from the CRA can come to before the board, one of the trustees or the director, and just talk to us about this. And answer our questions. I mean, what harm is it gonna do to delay it for 2
Ultimately,
weeks?
postponing the meeting is going to be up to the
Chairman, of course.
zoning board.
Yeah.
Well, if the board would like that, we can send a letter that we do have questions. We'd like to have more of a review of this project before we give our opinion. And we
I think it's
request
even
that
that,
there's
it's not
a
even-
postponement.
It's more questions than it is concerns.
Yes, I'm in favor in general,
Right,
but I
right.
just have these reservations because I don't understand parts of it.
Right, we have questions we would like to know, but not necessarily, because I do trust the CRA, and
Right.
I think it's a great project, but we have some questions.
And I hope all those things could be answered and successfully dealt with, any issues, and that it could go through, but I don't quite understand how they're dealing with certain things.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
Didn't we all get a little booklet about what they plan to do
Yes.
there?
Yeah,
We all had that booklet.
you're talking about this, aren't you?
Yes,
That was in our folder.
but I mean before this.
Oh, no, it was, I picked this up the other day.
Yeah, I went in,
Yeah.
I think it was in there Saturday.
Right, right.
Until then, it was in a written or spoken word to the board.
When did they have, there was a meeting, but it wasn't of the board. It was a general meeting of what they were thinking of doing with the appropriation of the building. And when did that take place, Ken?
I don't remember exactly
was
when. A couple
April?
months back, maybe, yeah, several months back. And I met with the executive director and with the town planner. And I think the building inspector was involved in that meeting too.
And that was,
And there was a general briefing on what they
it
were
was,
planning.
yeah, it was a general briefing, not as in detail of this project as it is now. But that was the only,
And I think
that was the only thing.
I
that
put a
came up.
copy of that in the basket too, for everybody to see. And I advised them, by the way, I advised them to come before the select board when they were ready. Didn't happen.
No.
I want to say it happened in May.
Yeah,
I want to say it happened in
It's
May,
5 months
but
ago.
there was not, it was not a formal, obviously, a formal presentation to the select board or to really anyone. It was just throwing the idea out there. And I don't even know that well, yes, the acquisition did take place because they were working over there, I believe. They've been working over there since January. So. But if there's a motion, I agree that if we can postpone this and have well, not a hearing, but a meeting with the CRA to address these questions would be prudent. So,
I'll make a motion, we request the planning board to postpone their meeting tomorrow night for hearing and have a presentation put on for the select board by the CRA.
I'll second that.
motion's been made and seconded. Is there further discussion? or
This will be
comment?
We just add to that informally.
Yeah.
We don't want to hold them up, of course. We have a meeting next
Oh, did you say planning board?
Yes.
Okay, zoning board. of
Zoning
appeal.
board, I'm sorry, zoning board.
Who seconded the motion?
Ed,
I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
As I was saying, we don't want to hold up this operation project. But if we ask them to come in next Tuesday, if that's feasible, and we can make our recommendation right then and there. We can discuss it afterwards and make
Well,
the
how
recommendation.
long of a lead time does the ZBA have to have a meeting? They meet once a month?
They meet once a month, and I think it has to be advertised 2 weeks in advance.
But not for a postponement, Ken.
Geez, I'm not sure. Jim.
I'm pretty sure.
Continuation,
Well,
like we do on the conservation board.
Continuation?
Yeah, they just do a continuation because it's already had a hearing.
Well, we can put in the letter, too, that we invite them to the October 9th meeting.
Yeah.
Or, yes, the CRA and/or
Yeah, they would have
the
to
company.
decide. So really, the motion is going to be to continue,
Basically,
because if they
continue.
postpone it, I think it has to be rescheduled.
Right.
Okay, so let's
I don't know
continue
what the
it.
law says.
Yep.
Let's continue it. Is that something you can sign, or should
Yeah, I'll
I
sign it.
sign it?
It's up to you. I can sign on behalf of the board if you'd like, or you can sign when the letter's done.
Why don't you sign on behalf of the board?
Yeah.
I don't believe we need to vote on that.
Need to vote on the motion, though.
Yep.
No.
Further discussion, comments? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you. Okay, that concludes our meeting for this evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
I'll second that.
Motion's been made to adjourn. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? For adjournment until town meeting in 15 minutes.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to get the meeting started right now. If you please all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. My name's Anthony Doyle. I'm the town moderator for the town of Dalton. On the stage with me tonight is William Droshing. He is the chairman of the finance committee. Your town clerk, Debbie Mary. We have Ted Walto, town manager. We have John Bartels, chairman of the select board. We have John Boyle, Ed Holub, Mark Strout, and John Boyle. Bob Bishop, I'm sorry. Sorry, John Bishop. Never have enough. Yeah, never have enough, John. This is a special town meeting that was called by a warrant of the select board that is dated September 10 of 2018, that has been posted by our town constable, Jeffrey Coe, at Dewey's Public House, Dalton Restaurant, Greenbridge Variety Convenience, Dalton General Store, the U.S. Post Office, Berkshire Organics, and the Town Hall Bulletin Board. This meeting is being recorded. If you're going to address the meeting, please raise your hand to be recognized. Please identify yourself with your name and your address, and please be courteous of the other participants. Anybody speaking has the floor until it's your turn. The first item that we always deal with is a waiver of the formal reading of the warrant. Do I have a motion for that? Thank you. Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying no. Thank you. Article 1, to see if the town will vote to amend the vote adopted under Article 2 of the warrant of the annual town meeting held on May 1, 2017, which vote authorized the borrowing of $1,282,000 to pay all costs related to the design, engineering, demolition, and removal of Old Dalton High School, including borrowing costs associated with said project, so as to permit the expenditure of any amounts not needed to complete that project, to pay costs of improvements to the existing parking lot and utilities on the site of Old Dalton High School, or to take any other action relative thereto. Mr. Droshing.
I move that the town vote to amend the vote adopted under Article 2 of the warrant at annual town meeting held on May 1st, 2017, which vote authorized the borrowing of $1,282,000 to pay all costs related to the design, engineering, demolition, and removal of Old Dalton High School, including borrowing costs associated with said project, so as to permit the expenditure of any amounts not needed to complete that project, to pay costs of improvements to the existing parking lot and utilities on the site of Old Dalton High School, including the payment of all costs incidental and related thereto.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Yes.
What is the amendment is, what is it being amended from and to? We know this being amended, but what was it initially and what is it now?
Anyone? Mr. Walton?
Say
The amendment, the original motion that was approved at that town meeting authorized $1,282,000 to pay for the demolition of the building. It didn't allow that money to be used for any other expenses. So, according to our bond counsel, if we want to add a parking lot and move the utilities, we have to get permission of this meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Bill Shadid, 6 Drive. I thought that the demolition was excluded under, from Proposition 2.5. If that's the case, how come this isn't also going to be excluded, and how will this be funded out of the town budget?
That's very true. The $1,282,000 was excluded from Proposition 2.5 via ballot vote at the annual town election subsequent to the town meeting. Now, if we wanted to exclude this part of it, it would also require a ballot vote. We're not asking for a ballot vote because we can easily handle this under our levy limit, and I believe that it's $129,700 for these two items.
Mr. Callahan, did you have a question?
Yes. So you thought it was appropriate to give a compliment during this period of discussion?
It's your 5 minutes here. Go ahead.
I needed 15, but it's okay. I'd like to compliment the Dalton Board of Selectmen for creating that Dalton High School Committee a few years ago and for following through on all those directives. This was a very difficult process, and there's a lot of history to it, and it would have been difficult to manage by anybody. A lot of criticism came from all directions. A tough one. So I'd like to compliment them on how this is finally being resolved. And it looks like, at least at this time, we're getting a pretty good deal out of this demolition, because there was more included in this demolition than initially thought. So I'd like to commend them. And if I may, I'd also like to give credits to the Dalton Green Committee for their initiative, involvement, and enthusiasm on all projects they get involved with, in particular the LED light grant that the town just received that will save this town a lot of money. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was so nice, Tom.
In the back.
Thank you.
Mike Hopper, 111 First Street. I guess I live right across the street from where they're gonna hook up the sewer. I don't understand why you would go all that way to hook up a sewer. Why not go to the left to Field Street, or to the right, or depending on my perspective, to the right to Glennon? Why go all the way to First Street? And what are you gonna do? There's already issues on those streets already with sewer problems. People up the street had a big problem with their sewer forever in the neighborhood pumping it out. Is it gonna be able to handle this? I'm not seeing anything on here that they were gonna put a swale in and deal with the water that went into the basement of the school at that time. I'm not seeing that here either. So I'm wondering, before we go doing infrastructure work, shouldn't we look at the infrastructure that's there and see if it can handle it? Has that been done? I don't know. But it seems like you're going an awful long way to go to First Street for some reason, where it would be quicker to go out the back way to High Street, or to the left or right to Glennon and to Field Street. I don't understand it.
Now, you all have in your handout a copy of the little site plan that was prepared by our engineers, still architects, engineers, and planners. And you will see a little line that comes out through the center of the parking lot heading toward Glennon Avenue. That's the existing sewer line. It goes out and it crosses the lots. In fact, it runs down those lots. So in order to create the 4 building lots that are shown on Glennon Avenue, that sewer line has to be rerouted. And our engineers thought the most expeditious way to do that was to route it, as you see shown on the back of those lots, with a little spur to the 2 houses that would or the two building lots that would come off of First Street. Now, I see that our highway superintendent is here. We did have a discussion about the sewering of that area. Our engineers didn't recommend increasing the capacity of the sewer, and perhaps Superintendent Ruffley might address the question of the sewer capacity in that area. Are you willing to do that, John?
Sure. I will say, the one reason for not going to Field Street or High Street is a grade issue. Field Street sewer actually runs behind the houses on Field Street, and High Street is too high for a grade for those lots. The existing sewer that comes out of the school, that was in the existing school, comes out where it's proposed here on the First Street. There's never been a capacity issue there. The engineers didn't feel there was a capacity issue. That pipe never runs more than a half a pipe. Is that everything?
Yeah, I got, what about the, I mean, what's gonna happen with all the water that we had issues from before? I mean, right now, when it rains hard, there's a lake where that, where they park, in that extra park. I mean, the grade is lower than what's there. So is that gonna be fixed, or, because the water went into the school during the hurricane there, so where's it gonna go now?
With, you want me to answer that? Yeah. After, I was on site with the engineers, and they plan on routing the water, sending it in a couple different spots. I'm not positive if they're on this plans, but in that large field, to the left of the school, looking at it from your house, there's a drain there that runs into the large 42-inch drain. They plan on sending a lot of water that way. And then on the other side, I know there's another basin over on the Glennon Ave side.
We can't say for certainty in inclement weather or hurricane that will never flood again. The site, as John mentioned, has been designed to look right in the center there. It means we actually took a house lot out of there below the second parking lot to provide for additional green space and water storage. That is the low point on the site.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, hearing none.
I'm sorry, is that why they left all the extra telephone poles on First Street to deal with the electricity that's probably gonna go in for these houses, because there's like 2 poles in every yard now? Or is that something that the electric companies do?
No, those poles are being replaced, and as I understand it,
It's been 2 years.
yeah, they haven't been removed because the electric company is waiting for the telephone company to move the wires. That's all there is to it.
Anyone else? All right, hearing none, seeing none. It's been moved and seconded for Article 1. This requires a 2/3 majority to pass. All those in favor of Article 1 signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed by saying no. Thank you, that passes unanimously. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to appropriate a sum of money for the fiscal year 2019 capital improvement program, including borrowing costs associated with said program and all other costs incidental or related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow said sum under General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, or any other enabling authority, and that the select board is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project. And further, that any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any premium applied to the payment of the cost of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by this vote in accordance with General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing by a like amount the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs or to take any other action in relation thereto. Mr. Droshine.
I move that the town vote to appropriate $100,000 for the engineering, project management, acquisition, purchase of fixtures and installation of LED lights for the town of Dalton, including borrowing costs associated with said program and all other costs incidental or related thereto. That to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow said sum under General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7 of any other enabling authority, and that the select board is authorized to take any other action necessary to carry out this project. And further, that any premium received by the town upon the sale of any bonds or notes approved by this vote, less any premium applied to the payment of the costs of issuance of such bonds or notes, may be applied to the payment of costs approved by the vote in accordance with General Law, Chapter 44, Section 20, thereby reducing by a like amount the amount authorized to be borrowed to pay such costs.
Is there a second? Second. Thank you. Been moved and seconded. Before we get started with discussion, the Green Committee has asked to address the Assembly.
Hi, good evening. I'm Richard Hall, one of the Green Committee members. We're very excited it's got to this point. We spent probably 2-3 years working on this project. We've already got $142,000 that have gone into improvements in the town hall, LED lights, and in the senior centre. The Green Communities just gave us the grant for $238,000 for this project. We've also got some funding from an Eversource rebate. They're going to help with this as well. And also another grant from the Department of Energy as well. So as far as street lights go, it's actually going to mean that we're going to save a lot of electricity doing this. And also, it's actually going to improve the lighting throughout the town as well. So the Green Committee is excited that we get a yes vote on this tonight, just for the town to help pay the balance. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any discussion on Article 2?
Bruce Lestry for Mountain View Terrace. Just out of curiosity, how many lights are we talking about? 10,000, 1,000, 5,000? How many?
728.
Okay. All right. How come we're not using that 100 grand that we just picked up on that sale of land to pay for this?
Well, we are, well, the project essentially is self-financing because we're going to save about $40,000 a year in lighting costs. Frankly, we hadn't thought about using that money. That money is set aside until town council tells us how we can use it. We may in fact have to use it for a like purpose, for the parks, improvements to the parks. We don't know yet. We're waiting for an answer.
And just one other point, how are you doing on the update with the sewer system in town? How many millions of dollars are we going to have to spend on that? And I see today's paper that we're going to have a real heavy bill with the new school. I think we're still paying for this school, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that we're just throwing money around. In the last special town meeting, we spent $1,075,000 that nobody knows about. I was here, and a handful of people were here. I think this has to stop. We're out of control. We're going to bankrupt the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm David Wesleski, Orchard Road. I'm chairman of the Green Committee. This $100,000 is an investment. It's not an expense. We are going to be saving $40,000 to $50,000 or more every year from this $100,000. The payback is somewhere around 2 to 3 years, where we will have recovered the money and ongoing for the next 20 or 30 years, as long as this is very different than capital expenses or than the high school kind of.
Still a lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but
Still a lot of money.
we have out of the $400,000, we have gathered grants to pay $300,000 from the state.
All right, thank you. Thank you. In the back.
Mike Hopper, I'd like to congratulate the Green Committee for coming forward with this. This is a really good thing, but I do ask all the time, this vote goes through, when will it be done? I hopefully we're not gonna wait for the electric company to do it, 'cause I can already see how they're good they are.
The planned start date is sometime in November to be finished early next year in January or February.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, hearing none, seeing none, it's been moved and seconded for Article 2. This also requires a 2/3 vote to pass. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying no.
No.
That passes by at least 2/3. Mr. Trochean.
I move the adjourned meeting.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed by saying no. Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Yeah,